afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Thursday, January 23rd. It's Alissa Coram here. We saw modest gains across the board for the major indexes, and the Nasdaq is holding strong at that 20,000 mark. Here with me now to break down the action in today's session is my colleague Ken Shreve. And Ken, as always, it's great to see you.
Yeah, long time no see. Allie
Yeah.
was off last week, so great to be back on SMT today. But all-time closing high for the S&P 500 today. So another pretty resilient day for the stock market. Want to take a look at three stocks. HubSpot, HUBS, setting up in a good base in the investment management group, KKR. Looking pretty good here. And finally, Applovin. I don't think we've talked about Applovin recently on
It's
SMT,
been a
so I
minute.
think it's time to revisit that one.
Sounds like a plan, Ken. We'll take a look at those stocks. But first, as always, let's analyze the major indexes. Here's the NASDAQ composite up about 0.2% on the day with a second close back above that 20,000 mark and inching closer to those prior all-time highs. But as you mentioned, Ken, the S&P 500 here with a new closing high, closing up about 0.5% at 6,118 or so, passing that prior high above 6,099 back last December, November, December timeframe there. So we're continuing to see strength here as this stock market rally makes a comeback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Even when I was off last week, just kind of paying attention to the market and seeing the market, serve up a lot of actionable setups. Saw more of it today. It's been a pretty strong move for the S&P 500. Over the past couple of weeks or so. Only
Mhm.
one down session, but after pretty strong gains Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, just seeing the S&P hold up near highs here. So market obviously, confident about a Trump presidency, and it's going to be, friendly to, Wall Street firms and a, good corporate earnings environment. So also confident about a soft landing for the economy, which the market worried, quite a bit about last year. So, soft landing, Trump presidency. That's a pretty good recipe for stocks here.
Yeah, things are sitting pretty at the moment. Any other thoughts, Ken, on what we're seeing for the NASDAQ?
Well, I mean, you had again three really solid up days in a row, starting on Monday, and this was after a pretty serious distribution phase for the Nasdaq
Mhm.
Composite. We have been pointing out all these higher volume uh, declines in the Nasdaq that really started in mid December thereabouts, yeah, and how this was going to resolve itself. But the Nasdaq gapped above its 50-day moving average last week. Stuttered a little bit the following day there, but buyers in control here. So to see the Nasdaq holding on to the bulk of 3 days of strong gains and above the 20,000 level,
Mhm.
looks like it's getting into position for another breakout try here.
Yeah, it sure does. Some really solid weekly gains here for the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 after last week's reversal off of those lows. And now let's take a look at the Dow because the Dow led today, so it too is making a comeback here, Ken.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You can see that it's 7 up days, 8 up days out of 9 trading sessions. The one index, it was interesting because the Dow and the Russell 2000 at one point were still below their 50-day lines, even as the S&P 500 and Nasdaq started to get going. So
Mhm.
Dow Jones looks a lot better here. The real issue right now is IWM, or the Russell 2000 small cap index. That is still below its 50-day moving average, and maybe still paying attention to that 10-year Treasury yield, which had a nice downdraft last week, but it has started to move higher again. So we're still
Mhm.
watching bond yields in this market. Obviously, the stock market breathed a sigh of relief when the 10-year yield backed off that 4.8%
Yeah.
level pretty sharply. But we'll keep an eye on yields, and if they start spiking again, that could be problematic for the market. But so far so good. Just a modest 2-day rally here, and despite 2 days of gains in the 10-year yield, the Nasdaq is acting quite well still.
It sure is. And chip stocks also in focus here, Ken. What are your thoughts on what we're seeing with SMH? We did see a little break of the win streak here, but a close off lows. If you take a look at the weekly chart here for SMH, like the major indexes, working on 2 weeks up in a row. And this week, notable action as it tries to break out of this long multi month range.
Yeah, I still have a lot of AI chip stocks acting well in the market here. So the daily chart, you had what six up days in a row for SMH, and tried to pull back close to that 260 level today. Was down sharply intraday, but you can just see buyers came in even though it closed just modestly lower. There were clearly buyers in, lifting SMH off lows. So again, after a six session win streak, pretty modest decline today. SMH showed some good strength as well.
All right. And now let's take a look at HubSpot. So, over in the software sector, this is a setup we're keeping an eye on, up 1% on the day as it works on the right side of a base. And as we saw a lot of volatility over the last couple of weeks, this stock has held quite strong and quite tight.
Yes, it has. And what I also like here is that you're not dealing with a stock that's, in the middle of a later stage run. This still looks like an early stage move for a enterprise software stock that has pretty compelling fundamentals still. It is, sells at a high multiple, but the market is rewarding it for that, that just nice, solid, strong earnings growth and revenue growth in recent quarters. So this is a nice base setting up here. We're at a point now where there are, when you're looking at the growth stock universe, there's a lot of extended stocks out there. So you do want to pay attention to names like this that have that good fundamental picture that are setting up in basis here. So good base setting up for HubSpot.
Mhm.
Not ready yet, but it could be soon. Still look at this as has the ability to outperform among enterprise software stocks. So good base setting up amid strong growth. That's typically a good combination. So we'll just put it on the watch list and see how the base shapes up here.
Yeah, and we've got earnings coming up in less than 3 weeks for HubSpot, and I'm sure a ton of other software stocks, and not to mention, I mean, Ken, next week is one of the big earnings weeks with a lot of the mega cap tech companies, so not only a big impact on the broad market, with their heavy index weightings, but also, what they say about AI, R&D spending, all of that stuff could have a ripple effect on the market and a lot of
Yeah,
stocks as well.
I just got done doing the earnings preview story, so I got a lot of Magnificent Seven stocks. Meta Platforms, Microsoft, Tesla. We got ServiceNow, so lots of important large cap technology stocks starting Q4 earnings season off next week, and what they say is going to be important. But just looking at how the Nasdaq is trading here and how a lot of leading growth stocks are trading. I think there's optimism that we're going to see pretty good
Yeah.
numbers next week from a lot of these large cap tech leaders.
Okay, Ken. Well, I know you've got a leaderboard scorecard webinar to get to. So let's analyze these next two stocks. We've got a breakout here for KKR in the finance sector with an RS line blue dot to boot.
Yeah, so a lot of good action in the investment management group here. Still a couple weeks away from earnings for KKR. This is an asset manager, big player in the private equity space. And what you have here is what is that? Eight up days in a row. So even though this stock is still near a conventional entry here, that left side high of 163.68, just a reminder that after so many up days in a row, you probably want to avoid chasing the stock at this point. Just watch for the stock to maybe pull back a little closer to that 163.68 pivot. Just needs to digest gains a little bit. If it can do it in light volume, that would be a good sign. But just a stock that is near a conventional entry here, but after several up days in a row, I'd be reticent about chasing it. Strong performer. Just want to wait for a better, a lower entry here.
Well said. Okay, let's wrap things up with a look at Applovin, up fractionally on the day, but I think the weekly chart here is probably what's compelling to you, Ken.
Yeah, it's a base setting up here, and after such an exceptional move, I mean, the last breakout was over right around that 80, 90 level back in September. It looks like so major price move, huge earnings report, growth prospects still very bright here. So like the base setting up, maybe had an aggressive entry yesterday for maybe more aggressive traders. Some for me, I would just like to see the base complete. So we'll just kind of keep this on the watch list. Fundamentals still very strong here. Company provides marketing. Analytics, advertising tools for app developers, really in the sweet spot of growth here, and that growth is expected to continue as apps proliferate out there. So, good name to keep an eye on here, basing and keep it on the watch list.
All right, sounds like a plan, Ken. Okay, well, as mentioned, we've got our quarterly leaderboard scorecard webinar coming up at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, where Ken and the leaderboard team are going to be going over performance over the last quarter, talking about some of the standout trades that were made and what you guys are seeing in the market now, and talk strategy, talk shop, talk strategy for the quarter ahead.
That's right. Got to put the leaderboard hat on, take the SMT hat off, and
Yeah,
put the leaderboard hat back on. So see you over
exactly.
there in about 10 minutes.
Yes, sounds good. So if you are a leaderboard member or trialist, you can check that out today by going to the banner at the homepage of leaderboard.investors.com. So that is it so much. That is it for us today. Thanks so much, Ken.
You bet. Nice to see you.
You too. And thanks everyone for tuning in. That is it from us for today. And after leaderboard scorecard, we'll see you tomorrow morning back on IBD Live, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details there. We're welcoming back special guest Joe Fahmy, a fan favorite. So make sure to tune in tomorrow morning, starting 10 minutes before the opening bell, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details as always. And we look forward to seeing you there in the morning. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you back here tomorrow to wrap up the week.